Hello. Gotta make sure I'm actually live. Yes. Okay. So, uh, this video is exactly what it is about in the title. I'm building a tool so that I can continue to build EAs, but I'm gonna streamline the process, make it very easy for me to build expert advisors. What I'm gonna do in this video is using a bunch of these kind of overlay different positions is just kind of walk you through my mindset as I'm building this tool. This is a completely different tool. We can talk about in another video. But what this expert advisor tool is really is it's a skill. Now, this is the second video in the series. The first video was one where first live stream was one where I kind of described the purpose, but I didn't have the full idea for it. I just knew that these are the sorts of things that I wanted from the MCP. And if you don't know what that is, it is the connection. It's the way that you can connect MT5 and Claude together, and then have basically Fable or Opus or whatever large language model comes out in the future directly control MT5. Now, why is this extremely useful? Because it can automate so many tasks. But what's the problem that we're trying to solve? The process of triggering processes really can be very token consuming, because every single time that you tell the large language model do something, it has to go and figure everything out so that it can do it successfully. What if everything was already figured out and saved and indexed and programmed so that what the large language model can do really is just choose a little mini baby program to run it, and then the process gets done. One, you save a bunch of tokens, so many tokens. Two, more importantly, the risk of hallucination, which is when the large language model just kind of drifts and goes in whatever direction it wants to, gets almost eliminated. It can still choose the wrong tool, which is why I want to say almost eliminated. But basically, you get what you want pretty much every single time. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about something called in-context learning, which is just to give you more of an understanding of the problem, and then you can stay for the rest of the stream and watch me build this actual tool. And obviously, I'm going to use it while I'm building it so that I know what to do next. Continue to build on it. This is a live stream, so it's going to be a little slow, not very polished like videos and edited and quick. So, relax, like watch the whole thing if you want to, or skip around, because later on we'll add chapters and then you can find the specific part that you want in the video just to know something about the tool. Either way, I want to talk about exactly what the problem is that I want to solve first, and I'll do it on the iPad and use this little app that I made that lets me connect my iPad to my screen without paying a subscriber or subscribing to a service for it. I used to, if you watch any of my old videos, use with the screen mirroring another service like a provider. Now, so long as I'm on the same network, which I'm not, I should be able to very easily connect. Okay. Then I'll show you using the iPad as soon as it actually connects. Well, let me start this. And I want to show you the tools that the MCP has. So I'm going to ask provide me with a list of every single tool call available from MQL5 or MQL's MCP. This I'll do table format. List should be totally comprehensive. Don't go too far with the details. Just give me a list of each API function, list that contains each. That contains each API function, and a quick definition of its purpose, I guess. Purpose. Okay, so this is our options. So these are the pieces of the puzzle that we have, basically. Meanwhile, this iPad thing is still not connecting because I'm not connected to the Wi-Fi, because I have Ethernet. Can I do both? If not, then the stream is gonna take a hit, and then see like glitchiness, and I'll just switch without the iPad. Chat is disabled. Why is chat disabled? We got the list. Stream. Gotta fix the chat before I get into this, in case anyone asks a question. I wonder if I can just access it through another chat. Or maybe I can just join my own stream, that works. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll fix the OBS stuff later, so we can actually stay focused for now. There we go. Oh wait, like even you can't chat. Fully disabled. Hold on, this needs to be fixed now. Set virtual camera. Streaming link. So many problems, constant problems, running into all these problems. General. Oh, I know what to do. I'll get Fable to help. That's how you that's how you solve all the problems now. I'm currently streaming, but OBS is showing me a disabled chat. Reconfigure the settings so that chat isn't disabled. That's how we do life now. I wrote disabled. That's a problem. If you're gonna do life correctly and properly and efficiently, you gotta have the typing skills, which is why I made this other game, other app I'm still making. But oh wow, it took control of this screen. So while it's fixing this, I'll show you the thing that I made on the other screen. Check this out. Keywords. .io. I chose struggle words, so you can add whatever words you want, and it will populate for you. Don't worry, as soon as the chat's fixed, we'll get back to actually doing things, productive things. Trying the docs menu. Oh, docs. Chat. Okay. Actually, because I can't show you the stream, I'll just explain what I plan on adding using this list. So we're gonna go over this one by one on the screen, but while it gets fixed, I'll just explain these. This is the plan for today. First is multi-core parallel walk forward. So last stream, we did the walk forward test, and it's like overlapping walk forward tests that you get to choose within the data, and it's nice, but there's a problem. And at the end of the stream, you saw the problem. It took too long. We were using one core of the 16 cores available on my CPU, even though technically you could use multiple cores. You could do all these walk forward tests individually because none of them depend on the previous one. So I want to see if I can fix that. And what I mean by fix that is make it so that it runs multiple tests at the same time. So that's just a little modification of what we did yesterday. And then what I want to do is I want to make it so that the IDE, so whenever you write code, shows. Now what the IDE is, it's just the environment where the code exists, okay? And then compiles and does all of the stuff that it does. And the reason I want it to show is because little things don't need AI, and you don't need AI to do all the things for you. Like, for example, changing the parameter settings that are default. So if you have a parameter setting, something set like to 14, like a moving average, 14 look back, you can just change that 14 to whatever you want, like 21. And then that's where the programming comes in. There should be a button or something that you say where it just gets saved without really spending a bunch of tokens. So that way, you don't need to delegate everything to AI. The little things, the quick things, you can just do it quickly. Okay, what else do we have? Another one that I think is going to be very useful is duplicating expert advisors. So let's say you have this code. It's nice. You want to add a feature that completely changes it, but you're not sure about this new feature. Okay. How do we save that, the current kind of model, the EA that you made, but then still take the risk? Just duplicate this one, make a new one, and then make the changes. So create like V2 or V3 or V4. That should be an automatic algorithmic process. You just do that and you're done. You have the new one. And then here's an interesting one, which sounds like extra, but I think it goes a long way. Organization. And what I mean by that is format. So formatting really matters, especially dummy parameters. And what that means, when you have an expert advisor and there's just like one space, so it's not just parameter after parameter. There's like a space that isn't, I mean, technically it is a parameter, you know, on the UI, but it's empty. It doesn't do anything. There's just like dashes, it separates this group from that group. That's called the dummy parameter. And that's used for organization, pure organization, just making it easy for the user who wants to like change the parameter settings, use the expert advisor to see everything. So I want that to be automated as well. And basically what I want really is to be able to focus almost purely on the strategic side of developing a strategy. No syntax, you know, where you sit there and try to figure out the correct code. That's already fully automated. No organization where you sit there and try to structure your code correctly. All that can be pushed to the AI now. And so it's like a no code experience of creating this expert advisor. I think that's everything. Oh, okay. And I want to start on what I'm going to do tomorrow, which is a little like UI UX to manage EAs. So right now, when you're on MT5 and you go to the navigator and you access your EAs, all of them are just listed with 0 organization. And if you want to organize it, you have to open the directory. Like you go to the folder and folder and folder, just so you can group your expert advisors, so you can move stuff around. So I'm thinking of making like a little UI, nothing too complicated, that just lets you drag and drop EAs and regroup them. And then that way it becomes possible to find a bunch of EAs online, add them to your kind of your list, but then not have everything get very cluttered. That's just, we're going to start that today. We're not going to actually do that today. Tomorrow we're going to do that. But I want to hopefully by the end of this stream make it to that kind of step and see it, just see kind of like the beginning of it. And then maybe tomorrow we go ahead and completely change it. But I want to try it. I want to touch it at least. That's pretty much everything for today, what we're going to do. And I have my little checklist. And wow, this is still not going. Let me check YouTube. Oh, thing. Could it be a YouTube setting, not an OBS setting? All right, well, you're about to see a tool that I have that's called Shoof, where I give Claude full control of everything. So this is called the Shoof skill, and it activates the debugger, and it just goes ahead and controls my main browser. So you see here, like this is an extension. This is gonna let Claude control. So this is my PC, like everything in my PC. This is the folder where Claude lives. And all the projects that I make are over here. So like, this is a project, this is a project. All of these are the different projects. And when things get stressful, it activates this on its own, which if you have bypass permission enabled, you can get Claude to do that. I'll show you what I mean by bypass permissions for anyone who doesn't know. This, if you have that enabled, then Claude will just go ahead, trigger it, and start connecting stuff. Look, it opened this page. Building best. Ah, that's my title. Live streaming. Yeah, it does stuff. This is fun, the visualizer, but it doesn't really do much. The actual extension has a lot of controls in it. And it bridges, basically. It's a bridge between the large language model and Claude, so that I can figure out the solution for me. I say the problem, those sorts of things. That's what's happening right now. Just keeping you updated on YouTube. Self still reports chat disabled. Let me verify my actual save. Did it stop? Did I stop it? What's quick? Where is the setting to enable the chat for YouTube? Give me a step by step navigation. Walkthrough or process. Process may be my favorite word. Process, okay. Customization. Oh my god, was it here the whole time? I think I just needed to click save. Kidding me? It did everything, it just didn't click save. Oh. Nice. At one point I wasn't just talking to myself because there's two people. 20 minutes in and we're just solving random problems that have nothing to do with anything. Hi. Typed hi up here, it didn't show, but that's me. I want to see later on if it stays also. I think later on the streams are going to be a lot more smooth, but this is the second stream. All right. Docs. Panel. So I'm checking this right now. See if I can watch the stream. So what this is the same page. Open Studio. Oh. Lots of options. All right, that's enough of checking the chat. I have access to it, so pretty good. Comes to that, I'm gonna put this over here, and I should be able to see the chat. There we go. All right, we can begin now. I can't use the iPad because that's not connected. All right, let's just do the tools. Let's just do the tools. Okay. On here. So this is where we stopped last time, and we have we had these windows for this walk forward test, and now I'm going to ask it to give me a quick update. All right. Give me a quick update on what the EA, this is the EA tool, the EA tool can do. We have one subskill, give me its current capability. All right, so brief explanation of what I'm expecting while this goes. I'm expecting it to tell me, okay, we can do walk forward tests now with the overlapping thing and give you the visual of that. And then I'm going to use that context of the update so that it's already familiar with it to say, let's do the first thing, which is, like I said earlier, multi-core parallel walk forward. Basically use multiple cores. And if we can do that, we can have multiple cores, then it should cut the time down dramatically. So that's where we are now. And see what it said. Here's the current state. EA evaluates any MetaTrader 5 expert advisor through the MT5 MCP. Cool. Skip all that. Our version walk forward, the EA runs unchanged over n overlapping fixed input windows. Okay, so it's clear on that. Cool. Now I'm gonna type the prompt, which is gonna be, I'm gonna say this quick. Answer this. Currently, the EA walk skill runs one test at a time, even though each test does not depend on the previous. Subsequent. Is it feasible to run as many tests as there are cores? I'm going to put in brackets agents available. So remember earlier I said I asked it to show me the tools. Now really we're gonna basically, well, I'm not gonna go over every single tool and make sure I get the correct one, but if it does mention, yeah, this tool exists, then I have this reference to be like, okay, this tool exists, that tool exists. And then the other thing is, part of the reason why I asked for all these tools is because I wanted to make the point that when you have this many tools, every single time that you prompt Fable or Opus or whatever through Claude to do something for you, it has to go through all these tools to figure out which one it needs to do. But if you index the tools correctly and you only use the ones that you want to use for creating EAs, many of these tools are for other things like trading. It can place a trade for you, right? It can open and close charts. So a lot of those tools are just extra weight if you're only trying to create an algorithm, create your own EA. So we choose the ones that we want, we put them, we index them, and we like kind of put them in a little program that you click this button, like Claude goes and clicks this button and does this thing, then this tool happens, and then that tool happens, and then that tool happens. You have like a little chain of exactly what you want. So that's really what we're doing right now. Okay, let's see what it says. Not with the current, so it said no. This could be a big problem that we need to fix. Big zoom, small zoom. There we go. All right, so I said no with the current, not with the current setup. The bottleneck isn't Claude agents. It's the MT5 strategy tester itself. one terminal has one tester queue, so tester run backtest jobs serialize regardless of how many agents submit them. MT5 only fans out across CPU agents during optimization, which the skill bans. True parallelism would require n portable terminal clone, each with its own MCP portal DAM, and duplicate tick data. Breaks this core skill inherit. I think we need to give up on the multi-core thing. Let me ask a question. We just move on to the other tools. Does the optimization run? Okay. What if we use the optimization and kind of through a loophole? I'm thinking, what if we do an optimization run, because optimization run does give you all the data that you need for the walk forward, but then have the same parameters. Is that possible? What if we use the optimization run unconventionally to game it into giving us many cores? Is that possible? The objective is simply to use more cores. Is there another loophole or tactic to achieve this using a single MCP? Question mark. And I'm gonna put in brackets the one we have. Check the tools again and ensure that it isn't possible if it truly isn't. Alright, I'm starting to think maybe we do have to give up on it and we just have to wait, because MetaQuotes for some reason doesn't like to give many cores for testing. I wish we could just use the GPU. If you could, then you have thousands of cores. You could just run all sorts of simulations. Or I guess all sorts of multiple simulations. So if anyone who kind of lost doesn't know what I mean, these agents over here are the tests, or the calculators, I guess, of the test. So you see how it says local 16 cores, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what this is if I go and open my task manager, you know, the task manager, it's kind of a popular page or window to go to, and I go to performance, I go on my CPU over here, I'll see a bunch of cores, right? So this is how many cores exist in my CPU. And if yours looks like this, you can just go ahead and like right click, change graph to logical processors, and then you see all of your cores. Now what happens is MT5 will just use one. So one is just gonna go full, like, it's crazy, while the others just kind of sit there waiting, doing nothing. And what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to save time by using more than one core still in the CPU. And then in the future, one day, we'll actually finally be able to use the GPUs, which have thousands of cores. Slower, a lot slower. They don't get like 4.6 gigahertz. Base speed is pretty high, but still, because it's thousands, it's a lot faster. And that's kind of like the end goal. In the meantime, let's just see if there's a quick way to use more cores. All right, let's said yes. So I'm feeling hopeful, but not too hopeful, because I don't know. All right, we'll see what happens. Oh. All right, it says yes. There are two genuine loopholes, both derivable through the one MCP we have, because tester run back tester. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Remember, I said like you gotta ask what the tools are and use them as reference. Okay, so I'm gonna read the whole thing, but then I'm gonna go back to make sure that we're using the correct tools. And then later on, we know when we build more things also outside of like today's list, I have a little bit of a sense of what's possible and what isn't possible, and it'll give me more ideas. So, all right, so this tool, which I don't even know what it does yet. Let's see. But I'm gonna use it to its full capability. Oh, too zoomed in. Tester run backtester just takes in ini, and the ini can request an optimization. There's no separate optimization tool exposed. Tester get status. Description mentions tester run optimization, but only tester run backtester exists in this MCP tool. Get the ini file, so it actually configures the tester. So optimization, and the ini should still arm. Okay, let's see what the loopholes are. Dummy input optimization, the blunt one. That's the one that I came up with. That was my idea just now. Let me see if it got it right. Set former date to the to date to the full span. Add one optimizable input, window 111, okay, and have the EA trade only inside window easy return, okay. One optimization run equals 15 passes distributed across all local agents. Costs every pass simulates the full span of ticks. Okay, cool, but does it use the same parameters? I'm gonna ask that question now so I don't forget it, but I won't click enter so I can read the rest of it. For loophole A, are we running tests with different parameters? Ideally, we use the exact same parameters because using different parameters would, you know, defeat the purpose of what we are trying to do. All right, let's continue to read. Let's see what loophole B is. So all symbols. Okay, this is optimization 3. So this is like a mode. I already kind of know how MQL5 or MetaQuotes like to do their code. So this is like a mode. So there's different modes of optimization. I don't know what mode 1 is, mode 2, mode 3, but they just have modes. So this is one of the modes. All symbols in MarketWatch, the elegant one. All symbols. Okay. MT5's third optimization mode runs one pass per MarketWatch symbol. Create n custom symbols, each holding only that Windows ticket library. One recorded conflict to resolve first. Autotester or autotest D. Note custom symbol equals distribution only. And the tester will take file every tick whoever holds decides better. That's weird. I don't really get it. The shared price, both pay optimization, emit for okay. It's a bit too much technical stuff for me, but it is called the elegant one. So I want to know more about it. So I'm gonna ask over here and say for loophole B, explain it to me without all the technical jargon and without explaining the syntax. What's this elegant solution? All right, so now we're kind of doing both. We're checking loophole A to see if it could be the one, which this loophole A was my idea. Like, I'm trying to repurpose the optimizer, the genetic, not necessarily the genetic backtest, but it could be the slow optimization one. But it just runs a bunch of those. Is it possible to run a bunch of those together with the same parameter set? Which kind of doesn't make sense, because is it possible? I don't know. If it is, then we kind of have the solution. I highly doubt that it is, but I still want to make sure. Maybe the MCP can do it. And then the second loophole that it suggested, which it thinks is more elegant than my solution, did not make sense to me. So I'm just asking it to explain it without telling me all this stuff. So let's see what the response was. Okay, no, the real parameters stay identical. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted, right? The one parameter being varied is a fake we invent. Oh, that's clever. That's very clever. Okay, let me explain why that why we're cooked and why AI is going to just dominate the entire world and make us second-class citizens. Because if you take the exact same EA, add a dummy parameter, kind of like for the UI when you add a dummy parameter just so you can organize it, but then you add that dummy parameter just so you can fill in a value, and technically have different parameter sets, even though it's the exact same parameter set, because the dummy parameter doesn't do anything, then you can, in fact, have a loophole completely circumvent the slow algorithmic, or what's called slow test thing, where you just have a bunch of tests. Each result is going to be the exact same outcome. It's the same, or not the same outcome because it's a walk forward, but it's going to be logically the exact same, like the things that actually happen. I like this solution, but I still want to see what the elegant one is. I don't understand why. I feel like mine is more elegant, but who knows? Are we cooked? Is AI going to take over? Let's find out. Loophole B. Plainly, MT5's optimizer has a mode where instead of varying parameters, it runs the same test once per instrument. One pass for GBP/JPY, one pass for EU RUSD, and it spreads those passes across all your cores. The trick, instead of giving it 15 different currency pairs, we give it 15 copies of the same pair, where each copy's price history has been trimmed down to just one Windows slice. Okay, hold on. Has a mode where instead of varying parameters, it runs the same test. Oh, so this is an optimization mode specifically intended for different currency, for running the same EA on different currency pairs. You just give it the same currency pair. Yeah, I think that is actually a little nicer, because then you don't have to adjust the EA. So if someone, for example, no, I lose, because if somebody has an EA that they brought in, you don't want to go change the EA every time you want to use this skill, right? This way you don't, affect the EA in any way. Don't change it. You can still get the test, use multiple cores. Let me just make sure before we commit to anything. Resume. We get 15 copies. Copy 1. Able to test the 15 instrument. This is why the elegant one. Nothing about the EA or inputs is touched. That's exactly the point. And no core simulates anything outside its own window. So there's zero wasted work. It's exactly the sequential test, just dealt out across cores like a hand of cards. Trying to sound cool. Like a hand of cards is not even a good analogy. Whatever. Alright, I'm gonna click tab. I really like this new feature. Like, it'll just suggest what you should do, and it often gets it right. I don't just blindly do it, but yeah, maybe I should, because that's exactly what I want after having spent time to just go over everything. Resolve the distribution only conflict first. Yeah. Alright, we'll go with that. One thing that is bothering me, unrelated to this, is the fact that I couldn't connect my iPad because I'm using Ethernet instead of Wi-Fi, but I don't want to risk that, so I won't use the iPad. But I'll still try to explain a little bit today about why you want to have these processes done algorithmically as opposed to having the AI do them every single time with the in-context learning thing. I glossed over that. I didn't get into it. So when you're inside of a session and you tell it to, you define something, you tell it do this thing, which is defining something. You tell it, okay, do this thing, and then it goes and it finds one of those tools, it uses one of those tools and actually does the thing. Sometimes what happens is it will do something wrong because you told it to do something that has very many tools, and you won't spot that it did this one thing wrong, but it will assume that it did it correctly. And it's a little thing that has nothing to do with like the full thing that you wanted. That just gets stayed there, or it's in there in the chain of thought, it's called. You know, when you prompt and then it doesn't give you a response, but it does some text. Well, that text stays there. That's called chain of thought that exists. Now, this wrong definition remains, and then later on you come back and you tell it to do the thing that actually is relevant to that wrong thing, and it does it wrong, and you don't know why. Well, it's because the in context learning, which is what you defined that thing inadvertently. I guess kind of it defined it for itself, but you did because you're the prompter. So if you do these algorithmic, not like expert advisor trade bot algorithm, but a set of rules is an algorithm. You do this set of rules to follow this sequence of events every time you tell it to do a thing. Then it will always have the correct tool moving forward. So just the chance of things going wrong significantly reduced. And that's basically, I wanted to show you on the iPad with like a tree of how like you tell it to do this thing, and then you have like a tree that's red, like and then another one that's green, another one that's green, and then that red one branches out into the green ones, and then it gets so jumbled up that when you do ask it to fix this thing that's not what you meant, too late. And what happens is in this section here, so like you see where you go here and you click this button and you have like your context window. So it says here, so far we're at 12% context. It's never gonna, well, not never, but very rarely will it do wrong things that can't be fixed in the first I'll say like half. Once you get to like 60%, at this point it's too late. The in context learning, is just it's embedded there, and either you have to start a new session, or you just have to use a different term, do something else, because by the time you fix it and get to like up here, say 80%, it starts hallucinating for a whole host of other reasons. So that's kind of the problem that we're solving. Okay, here's this test that it's doing, and it's supposed to be just like dots, the exact same. Oh, wait, hold on. That's the first dot, second dot. We have the dots. This is what we wanted. So now these dots are the simulations running with multiple agents. Yes. Success. Look, got these, got all these cores going. I think done? No, it's not. Yeah, so all these cores are playing, and it's a walk forward test. And unlike last session, yesterday, where we waited, yeah, I think we can pull up how much we waited. Here we waited for each window, every single one of those windows took its time. Like took its, see here, collected window 1, window 2, window 3, and no, it doesn't put like the actual time, but it took a while. It took a really long time for 26 windows to complete. Now we're doing 16 at a time, technically 14 because I have 2 of them disabled. See here, this is what disabled looks like. You can just right click on one of them and then click on disable, but not while it's running. Oh, changed in the background. Wait, why are the symbols different? It could be problematic. Or maybe it just shows everything on every symbol always. Yeah, I think it just shows everything on every symbol always. Because all of them, pretty much all of them are 0. Alright, let's go back to Claude and see what happened. Still running something. I'll probe this first. Okay, so this is like a probe. So it's just trying to find out if this is even feasible. Status says tester optimization process stopped. Recognized the ini. Is any like initialization or it recognizes any as an optimization, but there's no tester log and no agent processes or checking. Okay. The launch was a silent no op. The known failure mode, comparing my ini against the proven one from yesterday's. Is ini a result? Okay. Maybe here it'll tell me what ini is. Okay. The optimization is still grinding through the 281 marked watch symbols. I mean, it looks like it's working. In term finding, the distribution only conflict is resolved. Loophole B's core mechanism is proven live. Bonus route. My first attempt was silent no op because the expert advisor MACD subfolder, whatever. Looks like it's working. Ultimately, if we can produce the visual, if I can produce the same visual as yesterday, then it's a success. You have 7 views. If there's anyone live, hi. How are you? You know what's another thing that I really want it to do is I want it to automatically clean up the charts. So this is the thing. This is something that has annoyed me. Is every time you have these, you do new tests and you have charts, it'll open up a chart and then it'll just leave it there. And then you just have so many charts that you have to go one by one, right click, close, right click. That's something that must be automated. After a chart is open and you get what you want, close it. I don't want to have all these charts. So I'm thinking maybe just create like an algorithm or like create a little dedicated tool for that, just like dump close, or something. And then but then how do you engineer it, I guess? Because like these two, for example, I actually want those two charts. I don't want them to close. So does every chart kind of have its own, I guess, classifier? Like that this chart was created by you. Yeah, so there's something to be done there. I'm gonna add it as just like a to do later. Dedicated chart close subskill. Probably will have that expand into like to chart management. So later on, I'll actually think about how I can make that into more than just delete all these extra charts that appear, and it becomes more of a management thing. In the meantime, let's see what Claude has done so far. Got one thing running. Wait for optimization to finish. I think the optimization is finished. I'm gonna check to see what's going on. I'm gonna ask it. I'm gonna say the optimization looks done, but I'm not sure. Check. Quick, by the way, is just it's just a combination and a little bit of a modification of two skills that already exist called Caveman. So if you use Claude skills, you've probably heard of it. Caveman and I think ATK, Apache ATK, or it doesn't say the name here. But there's another one, ATK. One of them, not sure which one, Caveman or ATK, is optimizes the output, and the other optimizes the input, and together they're really nice. They do things like remove redundancies. So if you're saying the same long sentence, skip it, just use the existing long sentence. Dramatically reduces the amount of tokens that you use, but more importantly, is it's more direct to the purpose. And so what you end up with is actually cleaner code, but the caveat is that when it comes to design, you have way worse designs. Because something like design, like if you're trying to build a UI UX, then just like a platform, you want to have this look symmetrical, look minimal, look nice. You're gonna want to have a bunch of words better than the word nice. Okay, and then you start talking about style and these things, and these different words can mean these different things. These compressors, because that's what they are, Caveman. There's a couple other ones. One's called I don't know. There's lots of popular ones. What they do is they crush the language, compress the language to reduce the amount of tokens. But then also that kills the personality and the words, and you know, the feel that you get. More words is necessary if you want to have like a nice design. But when it comes to code, actually, the code that is smaller, just less code, is better. It's like when it comes to math, which is basic code. It's the difference between saying like 2 plus 2 plus 2 versus like 2 times 3. 2 times 3, faster, it's easier, it's quicker. And then when you have way too many 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, then it doesn't really take that much longer. But it's a lot more information that the large language model has to consume before it can understand what's going on. More tokens, and then more chance of hallucination, errors, those sorts of things. So yeah, when it comes to code, I use this quick skill, which just combines those two. But when I do design, most of the time I don't. But if it's like little things like change how this works, I'll use it. Just why not? Save more tokens, as long as you can get it done. Oh, this finished like 2 minutes ago. Let's see what it's saying here. Yes, done. AI agents disconnected, and the whole thing wrote a bunch of information to tester. The whole 81 symbols week took 100 seconds. One catch: the journal carries no per pass results. So the result channel for loophole B is the binary .opt cache file, which we need to parse. That's fine. We can very easily parse. As a matter of fact, that gives us more options because later on we can do more things with it. Okay, this is what I'm gonna say. I'm going to say first parse and verify. If you don't know what parse means, it just means go through it and like, you know, arrange it, I guess. First parse, then verify through comparison that we can get the same results as that last test we did last session. I'm gonna just be a little more descriptive with that. I'm gonna say the one where each window was 40 days. Why isn't this zooming? I was trying to zoom. Each window is 40 days. So this one might take a while. And I hope it doesn't create a new walk forward test that yeah, so I don't want it to create a new walk forward test with a single core, because then we have to wait all over again. We already did it once, so we can use that one that we did yesterday as kind of the gold standard, or more than gold standard, the oracle. The oracle meaning like we have to get the same results as that to know that we're correct. If we don't get the same results as that, something went wrong, and maybe this loophole isn't the correct one. Either way, I think we can achieve it, because even if loophole A doesn't work, there is a brute force blunt way, which is my idea, apparently less elegant, where we just add a dummy parameter and keep changing that parameter and run an optimization, slow optimization, and then we end up with the same thing, basically a walk forward test using multiple cores, and then not having to sit there and wait for every single test. If we keep going and we have viewers, while we wait, we can talk about things right now. No messages. If there's a viewer, you know, send me something. Send another hi right now in the chat. 2 highs. We still haven't even gotten to the next part. IDE MQL. I think it's working. Okay, so I see that there's many okay, the dots just disappeared, but there were some dots over here. There's many passes, and you know, there's a lot of red for all these different currency pairs, which doesn't make sense because we're not trying to run on all these currencies at the same time. Yeah, I should bring that up because that's a waste. Like running on all these different currency pairs. All right, Claude is take a screenshot, and I'll actually use that screenshot to bring it up quick. I see that many currency pairs and instruments are producing results, but don't want that. How come there are results from other currency pairs outside of the one instrument we're testing for? It could just be a comparison. Oh, I forgot to zoom. My bad. Super zoom. Yeah, it could be just like a misunderstand or misinterpretation by me, and that's not results. Like all these, like comparison results, drawdown relative to kind of a situation. Maybe it's just really aggressively testing, or maybe it went behind because it's a loophole. It went behind the back of MT5 and just swapped out all of these different instruments and just chose. Oh my god, I think it did because look. Relatively consistent numbers. They're not too different from one another. Meanwhile, we're talking about completely different pairs or instruments. So it must be the same EA running on the same data. Find out. We're about to find out. We're gonna check with Fablé. Okay. The optimization 3 working as that's optimization 3 mode working as designed. The model literally runs one pass per every symbol selected in the market watch, and your market watch has 281 selected symbols. So all of them get passed. The symbol GBP JPY line only sets the base symbol, not a filter. For this probe, the extra passes are harmless noise. We only read the GBP JPY row, but it confirms product shape of loophole B. The windowed custom symbol would need their own dedicated market watch selection. Yes. temporarily deselecting the other 281. Okay. Do you have a tool to temporarily deselect? But if you do, then did it. I'm asking now, just in case anyone doesn't know what's going on. I know this can be a little niche. You go on the tools. So up here, not the tool, the view. And then you go to Market Watch, this one. What you see is a bunch of currency pairs. So you can see there's a lot of these currency pairs. Now all the ones that are selected get tested for with this tool that we're repurposing. This testing tool, or this simulation type, this mode, which we are repurposing. We don't want to test all of these and compare them all with each other. We want to kind of go circumvent this mode so that we end up with a single currency pair being tested with multiple cores by the MCP. By the way, definitely possible. Now we know. It's just going to save us a lot of time, and that's kind of the reframing of what we're doing right now. Okay, let's see what it said. Yes, remove Market Watch symbol and add Market Watch symbol both explicitly. Okay. About 280 calls each way. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say write we're going to modify the EA walk skill to behave like this always. So document the process of, I'm going to do reading reading what tools currently, or what currencies, do instruments. Okay, so it's more than just currently exist before you remove any of them for the walk forward test. Then ensure you add them back just like they used to be, as if nothing changed. Okay. So that's the point now. What we're trying to do is set it up so that the MCP can just go in, do whatever it wants, change everything, but then before it does that, it just kind of records what already exists, so that after it's done, it can set everything back to the way that it used to be. And then every walk forward overlap test will do the same thing, where it uses multiple cores instead of just one core, and you sit there waiting forever. So yeah, that way you can iterate. Oh, my chair is messed up. That way you can iterate on your expert advisor as you build it quickly, because you get to see the data really quick. After you see the data, you make your changes. So that's basically what's going on now. Yeah, we'll launch it even though there's like a running process. And you can see here what it looks like. because it is kind of a loop. It's the same. Well, it should be the same. These are outside of what's going on. Actually, this is wrong because they should all be exactly the same. But then you have outliers, which should not be possible. Custom max. Yeah. I guess it's not completely wrong because we are still kind of in the probe mode for this. We're only probing. That's why we're doing all of these tests. You know, I feel bad for somebody dropping in now, and then, you know, nothing makes sense because, like, you need to have been there from the beginning to kind of know what's going on, and then re-explaining all of it would take a very long time, and we'd never get anything done. It only makes sense if you're there from the beginning, because if you're not, then you get so involved, like with what's going on now. You have all these different moving parts. You can't just take a step back and explain everything. Or I guess you kind of can, but not if you're being creative, like actually, because when you're really being creative, you don't even know exactly what's going on. You just have the base, kind of the foundation layer of what you want to do. And then you try this, you try that, you try all these things and see what sticks. Things that you've never tried before. Therefore, you don't really know exactly what's going on. I do know enough of what's going on though. All right, let's see what this says. Documented in skill.md. All right, so it's already modified it. Note the parity verification window still running in the background. The parallel mode section serve still awaits its verdict, and the rest of the number 3 stays sequential until that lands. I think the parity run is complete because nothing's happening. So I just clicked tab because it's suggesting to tell it to check. All right, we're checking now to see if it is complete. So what that is it just checking to see if a single core test where you just do one after the other is the same as the multi-core test where you're doing everything at the same time. If it is the same results, then we are done. All right, we haven't even gotten to the IDE thing. Still just working on the multi-core parallel walk forward. This looks like it might take a while. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you this, which I think is really cool. So this is well, this is the globe, the world right here. This is gonna be used for tracking my YouTube videos. You know, you get to see, or I get to see metrics. Right now, this is just mock data, but you can see the different views over time, traffic sources, like where people are coming from. And then here, this is interesting. So I can choose a video, like a single video here, you know, and when I choose it, a color will appear. So this is orange, right? And then this one here, blue. And you know, you add them, and you can see like all these because green, see all these pop up, right? So you compare like the different videos with the different views, and then also you have this, which is nice. So this is just from YouTube. You know, you can see your charts. It's just here. It's nice. You know, you get one place. But really, what this is going to be used for is for my team later when I get the team back together, so that they can upload videos directly from here. You can do that with Google's API. You can basically have full management of a YouTube video and clip it and do whatever you want with it. So all these live streams can be clipped, do a bunch of shorts, those sorts of things. And yeah, none of this is wired up. So right now it's just UI UX, but Fable, I'm pretty sure can do it, especially if you already have all the credentials from Google. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, like Google will give you like tokens, they'll give you like little IDs for the API, and then you take that and then you give it to Fable, and then Fable goes like, okay, now I can use this to access all this data that Google has with exactly the same approach that we have here for MT5. You know, we got these reference, where is it? We got these tools, right? So you have this tool, all these tools. That's how these APIs and these MCPs work. So much you can do once you understand that concept. This is fun. This is really fun. You got a globe, you can zoom in, spin it around. You know, you got extruding country stuff, and this is all from a repo, by the way, a repository from GitHub. But for some reason, the globe that they have is like really dark. It's really dark. Like it's not like this where it's like white and then only it's color coded. Only the colors that matter are the ones that are the color that you want. It's just like black, and it's not clear. But then like they open sourced it, which means that you can do whatever you want with it, because obviously I did, which is really nice. I love the fact that things are so open source, which is why I've begun to open source. I have begun to open source. I'll show you some of those things along the way. In the meantime, let's check. Claude. Where are we at? How far along are we in this process? Parity confirmed. Nice, but is it actually confirmed? We gotta make sure. The GBP JPR passed inside the parallel optimization on 3 mode. Reproduced last session's sequential window 1 exactly. 64.6. Okay. Turn. Okay. 2 findings that shape the skill right input in. Okay. Real quick. Really quick. How much faster is the multi-core approach? Is there also are Also, have we fully removed the noise tests? Question mark, and I'm gonna put in brackets other instruments that we're not interested in. Because if we have, then we're done. We're actually done, and I can finally get to the UI thing, or not the UI, the IDE. I pull up the IDE and show me the code. Speed. With 14 to 16 local agents, the window set runs 10 to 16 times faster, and wall clock once each pass is real window yesterday 26 18 minutes would compress to roughly 1.5 to 2 minutes. I knew this was a good idea, even though I didn't know if it was possible. I just knew this, that we could save a lot of time. Imagine you're trying to build your EA, and then you want to do this test, and then it's like 18 minutes, and now, because it's useful data, you just sit there and you wait. You're like, all right. And then you watch YouTube, and then you get distracted, and then you come back an hour later and you forgot your idea. Now, 1 to 2 minutes, you can actually do your idea, and that's the power of the EA walk sub-skill, of the EA skill. Noise. No, nothing has been removed yet. Both probe runs swept all 281 market watch symbols. The trims restore protocol is documented, the skill but hasn't been executed. And the real fix per window custom symbol as the only selected one doesn't yet exist. Okay, perfect. Per window custom symbol as long as selected doesn't exist. Okay. All right, now this is what I'm going to do. I am going to author and auto run a bev. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, this is a workflow that I set up, which has 3 types of phases. Phase 1 is audit. Phase 2 is implementation. Phase 3 is verification. And when I say bev, like the command that I'm about to give, what it does is it will break up well, first it'll create a plan, and then in the plan, it will break up the action plan part of the plan into only these 3 types of phases. Now, within those phases, you can have milestones. So it's not like it's not like one big plan. No, this is like bird's eye view, Bev. Bird's eye view. That's what it stands for. Where you can have multiple plans and just put them all together for a very long workflow. Which is why you need auto run, which is a completely different skill, which just re-triggers itself constantly. So if it stops and it forgets, then or it stops and looks for confirmation from you. Hey, are you still there? Are we still working? That that gets thrown away. Now with Fable, you don't really need auto run. It's just nice insurance. But with Opus, and this is way back in Opus 4.6 is when I made it. Opus 5, you still do need this auto run skill and this bev. Sometimes with Fable, it's better not to do the auto run depending on the size of the task. In this case, because I don't want it to just do this fix or add this one skill, I wanted to go over the previous skill as well that we made, like the index EA. There's EA, and then there's the index one, the sub skill, EA walk. I want to go over to the EA one as well, so that it has that context and it knows, okay, this is going to be a skill that has all these different sub skills that move forward. So I want to build all that before it makes any changes. And so I'm going to write the prompt now for the auto run and the bev. Okay. auto run. I'm gonna say author plus auto run a bev. I'll say mini bev because it's pretty small. A mini bev to completely finish the actually to make the walk, make the EA walk skill use multiple cores using your loophole B suggestion, but also to ensure that the market watch, the market watch symbols are I don't want to say untouched because it's definitely going to touch them, are re-added if they are removed. Success equals we have a multi-core process for the walk forward tests, but the the MT5 platform is left the way it was. The users, okay, yeah, okay, I know what to say. Success equals we have a multi-core process for the walk forward test, and the user's MT5 configuration remains seemingly untouched because you put everything back the way it was before you touched it. I misspelled because. The 16, 14 agent. I'm going to also add something else. Note, it's important not to waste computer resources and time with testing instruments outside of the one or ones we want. I just thought about something. What if your EA has multiple currency pairs? Then, like if your EA tests multiple currency pairs, then the walk forward thing breaks. So we would need the parsing logic. Okay, I'm gonna leave it for now, but maybe in the future I'll come back to it. But this is a real problem. I'll explain what I mean by that. If you have an expert advisor that has two currency pairs, like statistical arbitrage or some sort of a situation where you multi-core, multi-currency, portfolio or something like that, then when you run a backtest, just one backtest normally, you can have one like simulation and it shows you the different charts. But then with this market watch thing, it already does that. So you can't really do a walk forward test with multi-currency pairs. That doesn't fit the format. So that's either going to be just like a hard limitation for the walk forward test, or we'll come up with a solution later because it's a different problem, completely different problem. I'm gonna write it down while that does its thing, so that I can revisit it in the future. Walk forward. Multi chart sim issue. Solve to-do list. Okay. So this is still working, that's nice. This is also still running. Yeah, there's like a little editor thing, got this. I might need to change the live thing because yeah, some of this stuff might change, but you get the idea of what this is going to be used for. This is the app, iPad app that I created, which I need to fix for next session when I want to show you iPad stuff. But basically what it does is I click it, and then I can go and just connect my iPad, and you can see I have the same like this. This is my iPad. It's on a notebook, an iPad, and it's the same. There we go. Same icon. See? Composition book icon. So I'm gonna fix this, and then later I can make videos or live streams in the same format as some of those older videos that I made, where I can show you like this is what I mean by this and this is what I mean by that. So yeah, while Claude runs. I'll show you. I'm going to open source Bev, and I've already open sourced Brevity. So what I'm gonna do, might as well, while we wait for this prompt, is kind of show you the GitHub. The GitHub repo Brevity. And here it is. So what Brevity is and why I chose this icon. A minimal cost that snowballs into a very large savings. So here's what happens. When you start your prompts, you have a bunch of words, you're asking questions, the context window gains, increases, and there's a bunch of little issues that you run into. I've said this before. But let's say you don't run into issues, you just, the context is expanding. What ends up happening is you have to go to another session because by the time you get to 80% context window, too much hallucination. Now when you go to the next session, it doesn't have the context, and so now you have to fill it with context again, which costs tokens. And so you find yourself constantly, curating the next context window, or sorry, the next session. What if instead of it costing you when you prompt and you do something, say 5% of your context or 10% of your context, it can cost you just 3%. Well, now you can stay in the session for longer, which ultimately, A, will give you better performance, So you're gonna have more information that you can use, and B, you don't need to go to the next session and then give it all that context again. So it'll save you time, tokens. So that's what happens when you compress using these two skills, or these two caveman by this dude Julius Brussi, and RTK. Now here's the thing. Both of these tools are compressors. They just compress language. They take words, okay, and they'll like a sentence, for example, and they'll shorten that sentence. Now here's the thing. If you shorten that sentence, you lose information. It's usually okay. Usually okay to lose some of that information. But if you have two different compressors, one, pushing the input tokens, one pushing the output, now you're losing too much. And so that's why you need some additional rules just to kind of mitigate the damage. Now choose between this one and this one and prioritize, because yes, we do want to save tokens, but that's not the objective or the primary objective. Prioritize reducing tokens only when it's actually useful to do so, to preserve the context so that you have better context and you can use the chat, not just to save tokens. So it won't reduce tokens or it won't compress everything. And I'll show you some of the testing I did. Like here, for example, so this is like different tests, benchmark tests that I ran on my own thing. 0. So 0 compression when I told it to download a repo and figure out what's going on the repo. So different things will actually take more compression. And yeah, for some reason the numbers seem quite inflated. Like it's saying, oh, you're going to save 70, 60%, 80% of your of your token consumption. In my experience, it's just a fourth. Like you save about a fourth of your tokens. Yeah. My own thing, and I'm like, is this the best data? Technically, it is a lot more. You're like up there, and the 85.2%, 99% for this thing. But altogether, just from personal experience using it and not using it, you save about basically something that would, if 100% was 4, I guess 25%. Wait, that kind of falls in line if you add those. Now I'm just confusing myself. Brevity's entire overhead, skill load plus 80 token anchor, times 40 turns. Yeah, exactly, about 40%. So this is the number 75, 73.2. But what confuses me always, even though this is like literally my thing, but then again, I just took two things and combined them that other people made. Is this here? It says like 40x itself and all these extra numbers. In my actual experience, it's about 4 times more efficient. 1/4. Yeah, I open sourced it. Maybe someone else can do an even better job than me, and then let me know. All right, back to this author plus auto run. So I think maybe we don't have time today for The IDE thing. Share is a problem. Or the criterion 6 run drains. Clone builder. Yeah, so there's a bunch that's going on. I'll show you what the bev actually looks like. So here you can see the ran my skill bev. I'll open source this later. And when I click on this, it'll open the it will open it up over here as a file. And it looks like this. So this is the bev. It's a document, but it's a dynamic document which gets changed over time. It's a checkbox. It's a to-do thing like the status. And here's the implementation and the verification and the audit. And like I said, we'll always only choose between those three. Either it does an audit, an implementation, or verification. So here it decided to do implementation after. And it will choose like what to do. Always there will be two parts. There will be part one, a centralizing text, and it's always going to be framed like this. It will say success equals, and then it'll put success inside here and inside these curly brackets. And then this text can be referenced every single time in the future, whenever it wants, because it's the purpose. And if we're doing something that can't directly be aligned, or justifies the purpose, stop doing it. Don't do it. So that's why part one is so important. Part two is the phases plan. This is the actual, action plan that takes place. And one of the main rules in the Bev skill, which, like I said, I'll open source it, is always chooses the path of least resistance. Now, I found that when you just give AI permission to do anything it wants and just go do the thing and build it, it'll overcomplicate. Like it'll try to follow best practices. It'll hear what people say online about code, and who's saying things online about code? Coders. And what's the biggest flaw that coders have, programmers? Grandiosity. They just sit there like, yeah, I do so much, I do everything. This is what the models are trained on. They're trained on videos and descriptions and forums and just what people said online, code, of them saying it's not enough to do just this thing, this one thing, even though it is. The gatekeepers, basically. If you want it to be done right, it's going to take forever, and you need to pay me like this much money because I'm the architect. I'm the guy who does all the code, who does everything. So what does the large language model do when you don't tell it to choose the path of least resistance and to calm down and just build the thing? It goes and says, okay, I need to, like a programmer, like a human programmer, I need to add this, I need to add that, and it adds way too much stuff. So much stuff that it just kind of spins out like on itself. And we're not even talking about hallucination. We're just talking about like it creates a plan that's too big for itself, for its own context window, for its own capabilities, those sorts of things. Okay, so check this out. The Bev will do this. So I finished the first one, so it gave me a check mark. And then here's the second one, right? Now what I like to do, because I have two screens. I have like this screen here and the screen. I'll have this on my my screen like this. I wonder if you can see it. But I'll do this. I'll put them up here, and then I can just see it. So this is my spot, like right here. If it's all green, then I'm done. If it's not, then I continue to like game and like I watch videos where, so it's just there, and then I can have it run in the background. Um, this is a small bev, so it's not gonna take forever, but you can do this with like a really long workflow and have it do a bunch of different things. And it basically positions you such that when you're using Opus 5 or like an inferior model, you can kind of get away with having it do a lot of things because you can just tell it do this verification or do a verification after every implementation, or you can tell it do 3 different audits, one audit for this, one audit for that, one audit for this, and then summarize that and create a document, right? And there's little tools like bev add and bev remove, so you can change the structure and the overall plan. So basically, as the author, you the prompter, you're creating a single document, which is the entire game plan. Once you have that document, then you just trigger auto run and you just let go of it. And what it says is, okay, the bev is frozen. One other thing though that I forgot to mention, and I just remembered, is there's an amendment log. So here, the very bottom, because you can make changes to your plan, and you can run into problems as well. It will amend, so it'll put the date and it'll say we did this, we did that, and this is the only thing that's like dynamic, that's not frozen, that continues to change once you began the auto run. So once you began the auto run and you have the plan and it's stuck, even though sometimes your plan was wrong, there's a logical flaw, there's a rationale, there's something you missed, right? You've overlooked this little thing that now causes a chain of events that make the future impossible. Phase number 5, 6 can't happen anymore. Instead of just giving up on everything, you can either cut, you see here it says cut, okay? Or sometimes what it'll do is it'll just whip, like we're still working on it, and leave it there. But then you go to the amendments at the bottom and you add. It adds whatever it needs to the amendments. Got the details. Here's those milestones I was saying about. So M1, milestone 1. Parse. That's the parser. M2, window symbol builder. I will say this. When you run this with Opus, it just creates so many. That's fine. They can create it however they want, so long as they get it done correctly. I'm talking about them like they are they, but really it isn't it. It can create the phases however it wants. I find that Fable will always just create like 4. 5 sometimes. Opus will just go with like 12 phases every time. It just goes to show you how different the two models are. And when it comes to what they're good at and what they're bad at. With Fable's already good at these long tasks. And so forcing Bev onto it isn't always the best idea. If you want to clean like make sure that it's correct outcome and archive everything and log everything, use Bev when it comes to Fable. But in terms of just get it done, sometimes it's better not to use Bev. Whereas with Opus, it's the other way around. It's actually better to use Bev because it keeps it structured and in line. Because if you don't, then it will drift. Opus 5 simply cannot do the same as Fable when it comes to these long tasks. But then again, it's very domain specific. Like it depends on the field that you're in. What was that thing that just popped up? That was MT5, but why? UI UX. That's interesting. Python. All right, it's still just going. Not sure exactly why it opened up MQL5, but it did. Active Edge, cool. Yeah, like I was saying, that's why you want to use the Bev. There's some other tools as well that, because I'm going to open source Bev as well, but there's some other tools that I want to make sure that I have everything set up correctly before I open source them. Namely, the Shoof tool, like it's like pinch tab. Let's check like pinch tab, so you know what I mean. And I'll probably use it as like a reference. Tab, GitHub. I'll explain what it is, and it's a really useful tool that can actually be used in tandem with Bev. So you use pinch tab and Bev together. And what will happen, because Bev is just like a workflow tool, like a structure tool. It'll structure the plan, create the action plan, and then within the action plan, based on whatever skills you already have in your Claude, it'll just pull these skills and say, we'll use this at this phase, we'll use that at this phase, you know? So really, the more tools you have, the more powerful Bev will become, because Bev is just an organizer. I like this little graphic here for pinch tab. Cute. Very cute. So this is pinch tab. And it's there's a bunch of words and like 10 stuff, but what is it really? It's basically this. It activates the debugger, okay? This thing from or actually it uses its own browser. But essentially what it does, when you go on Google over here, okay, you can either go through here or you can just right click and then go to inspect. Opens this up, right? Now check this out. If I hover over different text, it'll highlight different areas, right? So what this is really is, and the buttons are included, it'll highlight different sections. What this is really is Google can see all of the different buttons and components and different stuff on the channel or on the page. But there's more. There's DOMS controls. In other words, buttons can be clicked. And so you're just giving that as access to the well, to Claude via the bridge. And the bridge is just this in the case of the Shoof skill that I have, and its own browser in the case of pinch tab. So pinch tab isn't using Google, it's spawning its own browser. Actually, it might use Google. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, because I read it a while ago. Oh wait, pinch tab can manage multiple Chrome instances, so it is using Google's Chrome. Yeah, good thing I checked. You can connect multiple to, yeah, so basically like the Shoof Sand skill that I have. And yeah, I might as well open source mine because they're kind of the same. Some differences, little differences, but they're basically the same thing. All right, let's go back to Claude and see where we are with the Bev. We're still on just number 2. yeah, a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I definitely won't have much time for everything else. I want to fix the streaming stuff before doing all those things. But yeah, we're gonna build probably tomorrow the MQL 5 EA editor thing, and we definitely know that it's possible because this got pulled up. So I remember while I was just talking earlier, this came out on its own. Plus, there's another thing that's interesting, which is this. So this isn't usually there, like these numbers. That's the MCP. The MCP pulled up the well, no, Claude pulled up the window. The MCP allowed Claude to go and create this tab, and then the code was created using Claude via MCP, which means that all this stuff that I have over here, which is basically management of the IDE, all the stuff that I want to do tomorrow, is definitely confirmed. You know, it's possible. And I will try to do like a much cleaner stream for tomorrow. Spent like the first 20 minutes figuring out why OBS wasn't working and I couldn't see the chat. That needs to be resolved. Yeah, I think that's it for today. Okay. I'm gonna continue to stream, daily, probably for a while. And I'm gonna build this entire tool and then put it up on GitHub. In the meantime, if you found these videos useful, you came from a short or from any other, maybe we make not shorts, but put those videos out. If you came from anywhere else, leave a like, leave a comment. Tell me what you want me to add to this EA tool, and I'll probably add it. Okay, thank you for watching. We'll end the stream now. We'll be back tomorrow, probably around the same time. And we will add tomorrow, hopefully we'll actually do it tomorrow, that feature, the MQL5 editor and manager. And then we'll even make it to the UI, which we didn't even get close to at the end over here. Little UI section where you can manage your EAs and very easily download new EAs, put them into your management, and then have Claude read it really quickly. That's going to come in handy a lot, just having like that little organization element to it. Okay, we'll actually end the stream here. Thank you for watching.